On the night his billion-dollar empire collapsed, Marcus was at his own party. Champagne was flowing. Music was loud. His guests laughed and toasted to his name. They had no idea that man smiling at them had already fled, in his mind, hours ago. They didn't know that the champagne was bought with their own money, that every private jet ride, every VIP dinner, every handshake that felt like a blessing was a trap, and none of them ever saw it coming. Fort Lauderdale, Florida, mid-2000s. If you were in law, finance, or politics, and you wanted to matter, there was one name you needed to know. Marcus. He ran the most talked about law firm in South Florida. 70 attorneys, a 16th floor office with a view of the ocean, exotic cars in the garage, front row seats at every major event in the city. He wasn't just successful, he was magnetic. He remembered your birthday. He flew you to Vegas on a private jet just because he could. He introduced you to politicians, celebrities, judges. He made you feel like you had been personally selected, like you were one of the few people in the room who truly deserved to be there. That feeling is important. Hold on to it. Young lawyers at his firm idolized him. Investors called him a visionary. Business partners bragged about knowing him. Even law enforcement had his number in their phones. His nickname, later revealed in court documents, was the Prince of Darkness. Nobody questioned that nickname. They thought it was just his sense of humor. There were red flags, of course. His lifestyle was completely impossible on any legitimate legal income. The firm's charitable donations were enormous, suspiciously enormous, and he always had cash, always, no matter what the economy was doing. But when someone is handing you access and prestige, the brain doesn't ask hard questions. That's not stupidity, that's psychology. And Marcus understood that better than anyone. His investment scheme was elegant. He would sit investors down, one at a time, always in private, and explain that his firm was the most successful sexual harassment law firm in the country. He had discovered, he said, that wealthy men with dirty secrets were very willing to pay to make those secrets disappear. He'd lean forward and gesture toward a large piece of artwork on his wall. Behind that painting, he told them, was a hidden screen, and on that screen, surveillance footage, powerful men, compromising situations, ironclad leverage. The defendants were desperate. The plaintiffs needed cash now. And he, Marcus, was the man in the middle who could make everyone walk away quietly. All he needed was an investor willing to front the settlement. In return, they'd collect the full amount at a premium. 12–15% returns, paid quarterly, guaranteed. Confidential, of course. That word confidential was doing enormous work, because the moment someone agrees to keep a secret, they stop being a victim. They become a participant. They have skin in the game. They have something to protect. And when you're protecting a secret, you stop asking questions about it. Investors handed over hundreds of thousands, then millions. A few put in tens of millions. The settlements were fake. The plaintiffs didn't exist. The defendants were invented. Every document, forged. Every verification call they made, staged, with Rothstein's own employees on the other end of the line, impersonating judicial clerks and court officials. He was not just lying to people. He was building a system where the lie believed itself. The scheme worked because it fed on trust and then manufactured more of it. When new investors had doubts, Marcus didn't argue with them. He didn't get defensive. He simply opened more doors. Come to the party. Meet the senator. Let me introduce you to the bank president. He created a social ecosystem where questioning him meant questioning everyone around him, all the powerful people who also seemed to believe in him. Doubt him and you were doubting yourself. That's called institutional capture. It's when a manipulator embeds themselves so deeply into the systems around them, legal, financial, social, political, that the cost of exposing them feels higher than the cost of staying silent. He bribed law enforcement, he cultivated judges, He had politicians photographed at his fundraisers. Every layer of protection made the next investor feel safer. The machine kept growing. More money in, more money paid out, more investors recruited, more fake documents created, faster, harder, and underneath it all, a quiet, growing terror that if the machine ever stopped, everything would collapse at once. By 2008, Marcus was taking money from anyone. He later admitted under oath, "When you're trying to keep a Ponzi scheme from exploding, you don't really care who is putting the money in, so long as you're getting the money to keep the enterprise alive." He said that. Those exact words. He knew exactly what he was doing. He always had. The 2008 financial crisis hit, and investors, suddenly scared, began calling in their money. Marcus couldn't cover it. He started stalling, fabricating delays, blaming court schedules, creating new, more elaborate fake documents. But the calls kept coming. October 2009, while a party was happening at his home, one last performance, Marcus quietly booked a one-way flight to Casablanca, Morocco, a country with no extradition treaty with the United States. He took $15 million with him. His partners woke up the next morning to find the office locked, the phones unanswered, and their mentor, the man they had built their careers around, simply gone. Some of them stood outside the office building, just stood there, not moving. One attorney later described it as feeling like the ground had disappeared beneath her feet. She kept thinking it had to be a mistake, because the alternative, that everything had been a lie, was too large to process all at once. That's not weakness. That's how betrayal at this scale actually lands, not like a punch, like gravity suddenly switching off. Here's where the story takes a turn nobody expected. Marcus came back. 2 weeks after fleeing to Morocco, sitting alone in a hotel room with $15 million and a phone that wouldn't stop ringing, he called his lawyer. He said he couldn't leave his family to face what was coming without him. He boarded a commercial flight, walked off the plane, turned himself in. In federal court, he pleaded guilty to 5 counts: fraud, racketeering, money laundering. He was sentenced to 50 years in federal prison. He then spent years giving depositions, naming names. 30 individuals were eventually prosecuted in connection with the scheme. Banks that had turned a blind eye were held accountable. Hedge funds that had quietly known about investor defaults and said nothing were exposed. $1.2 billion gone. And the people who had trusted him most, many of them lost everything they had. Here's what this case actually teaches us. Marcus didn't deceive people in spite of their intelligence. He deceived them because of it. Smart, successful people are often the easiest to manipulate because they trust their own judgment, and Marcus never gave their judgment a reason to fire. He used a tactic psychologists call borrowed legitimacy. He wrapped every lie inside a trusted institution, the law, the courts, the government, so that doubt felt socially dangerous, not rational. He also used what we can call status bombing, not love bombing, not romance, but access, prestige. The private jet before the ask, the VIP dinner before the pitch. He made people feel chosen before they had agreed to anything. And once you feel chosen, you protect that feeling, even when the evidence says you shouldn't. 3 things to watch for in your own life. First, anyone who makes you feel privileged just for being near them before asking anything in return. Second, deals or secrets that require your silence as a condition of participation. Third, mentors or leaders whose lifestyle seems impossible to explain, but nobody around them ever asks why. The inability to imagine that a trusted authority is lying to you is not naivety. It is a state they engineered. The question worth sitting with is this: how many people in your life are you protecting, not because they deserve it, but because doubting them would cost you too much? If you've recognized any of these patterns in a boss, a partner, a friend, you're not alone. Subscribe, because the manipulation tactics most people never notice are the ones being used on them right now.